Hey sports fans, are you ready for an exhilarating gaming experience? Introducing VIPclub.lv, your ultimate online sportsbook and casino. VIPclub.lv offers a vast selection of sports, from football and basketball to tennis and baseball. Bet on your favorite teams and enjoy the thrill of the game. But that's not all. Our state-of-the-art online casino offers a dazzling array of games, including slots, blackjack, roulette, and live dealer tables. Win big with their fantastic promotions, rewards, and exclusive offers. Join VIPclub.lv today and get a generous 200% match welcome bonus to start your winning streak. Bet it, win it, and cash it at VIPclub.lv. Visit VIPclub.lv now and play responsibly. VIPclub.lv, your sportsbook and casino extravaganza. Must be 21 or older to play. Please gamble responsibly. Visit gambleware.org for help.
Good evening, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host tonight, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is our weekly Tuesday night Chalk Talk Between the Lines with myself and Scott E. Webb. If you hear some thunder boomers, it is dark and ugly here in Cape Cod. I'd like to say sunny Cape Cod. My backdrop is a Fenway. But the Sox are out of town tonight, so hoping they have good luck early and often against the Guardians. Shout out to our new sponsor, VIPclub.lv. Go over there, use the promo code ECSI, choose which bonus you'd like, and let the games begin. So without further ado, let's bring them in. From, I assume, the sunny state of Florida, the one and only Mr. Scott E. Webb. Good evening, sir.
Well, of course it's sunny here, Jeff. And I would tell you that if it was raining, it would just go away in, a matter of 30, 45 minutes, and then it'd be sunny again. So, it's always sunny in Florida. Isn't that what they say?
Well, funny, I lived in Jacksonville for 1 year.
That's not Florida. That's
I know
the furthest city south in Georgia.
I can tell you that. I was living down there in my younger days for 1 year at a friend's place. And I can honestly tell you every day at 10:15 in the morning, it would rain till 10:40. And that was it. But you could count on that rain at 10:15 every morning.
Well, the weather systems are funny around here. That's for sure. We're on a peninsula, so we get wind from all different directions, and weather systems come from everywhere. So it's interesting weather, but at least I'm not dealing with snow. I guarantee you that.
Well, we already have 3 games tipping off. First pitch is already at 6:40. Minnesota, Tampa, 0s, bottom of the first. KC, Miami, 0s, bottom of the first. Interesting. If people are not following, leadoff batter Luis Ariza, or I probably butchered that. Arise came over from Minnesota, batting .399 to start the year there. And Detroit and Philly also 0s, top of the first. I wanted to get into a few injuries, what's going on. But seeing that there's a few games that are going off at 7:05, 7:10, 7:20, I'm going to give you the stage first, maybe to give some insight to maybe a few breakdowns, some leans that you might already have, where people watching right now still have about 20 minutes to get into, Scott.
Okay. So those 3 games. So Arizona, Washington's getting ready to go. You got Henry against Urban tonight. I think that this is pretty one-sided. If you're going to play this game, you want to play on Arizona. I'm not a big fan of this particular game, but if you're going to play the game, I think you have to play on Arizona. I don't mind Washington. I think Washington's been a little bit of a stickler type team. They've been a thorn in some sides of some of these teams they've been up against, and they've played pretty well. But they don't have the pitching matchup to kind of hold up tonight. If you got Josiah Gray on the mound or Mackenzie Gore or somebody like that, you might look at Washington. But tonight, Henry's not that good for Arizona. But Arizona should be able to hit Urban, and if you got a team that can hit the other guy, it's kind of one-sided here. And I don't think the line's that terrible. where was the number at the last time I saw that? The last time I heard the number, it was in the 130s. It's 135. I made the number 134 last night. It was 150. So I didn't play it at 150. 134 is not a terrible number. I just don't think there's any value in it. What you're looking at in that particular matchup, just in terms of pitchers, let me switch over to my other screen. You've got Henry, who's off of a majorly good start. His last start was a game score 82, which is really high. It's probably his best start he's ever had. But even at that, his xFIP number is 488, Sierra 499, and FIP number is 529. Those are indications he's going to get hit. Irvin's numbers are 562, 540, 589. So those aren't any good either. So I think that your better option is Henry, but at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me to see him give up some runs, and then they'll have to win one late, kind of in a big game. The Chicago White Sox are coming into town to play the Yankees. Yankees off of kind of a good series there when they played the Dodgers. They won 2 out of 3. Aaron Judge is now hurt. So he's not playing. I never bet the Yankees when Aaron Judge isn't on the team. So I just automatically rule it out. Now, having said that, I will tell you that Schmidt is on the mound tonight. And I think he's a minus 140 something. Where is he? Minus 140. You can get him as low as 136 in some other places. I don't mind the Yankees as a play. I think the White Sox are coming in a little bit hotter than what they have been. But I will tell you that Giolito, his last 3 starts has average game scores of 39 in 3 starts. So that's not very good at all. On the season, he's a 52. His last 7's a 51. So that means he's an average pitcher at best. And Schmidt, over his last 7's a 50. Over his last 3's a 61. 61's like an ace. So he's been really good in his last 3 starts. He was really good in his last start. So I expect Chicago, the White Sox, to sort of catch Schmidt in a spot where he's going to come down and regress back to his mean type of average. And Giolito is just an average pitcher. I mean, so if the Yankees can hit, then they'll be in the game. And, when Judge isn't in the lineup, I don't look for them to hit. So I'm staying off of that game. Numbers wise, you're looking at xFIP of 360, 385 Sierra for Schmidt, and 443 and 443 xFIP Sierra for Giolito. So you're looking at a little better numbers from the Yankees. And the Yankees had good success in the bullpen, so I don't expect that to be a problem either. And I know the White Sox got Liam Hendricks back, but I still think that, the Yankees are probably going to have a better bullpen. So I don't mind the line. I just don't see any value there. This Pittsburgh game against Oakland, at this point, there's 2 teams that when you get up every day, if you want to bet against them, just bet against them. You just got to pay the price or figure out how you want to do it. But whenever Oakland plays, whenever the Kansas City Royals play, just play against them. It doesn't matter. But Pittsburgh, Keller is minus, I think, 280, maybe something in that neighborhood. And Keller is one of these guys that he's top notch, guys. He's made some adjustments and done some things. And if you don't think these guys are major leaguers, go out and learn things from these schools they go to in the off season. And they go to Driveline and some of these other places that work on what pitchers can do and movement of the ball and the Rapsodo machines and all that stuff. He's a prime example. He is excellent. I think he's 7-1 on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Something along those lines. He's got a 242, 251 xFIP Sierra number. Now, those are predictive numbers. His actual FIP number is 240. So that is an awesome repertoire for a pitcher. He's got a high strikeout rate, 11.91 per 9 innings, and a walk rate of 1. So if you want to beat him, you're going to have to hit him. And his batting average against is 220. So you're going to have a struggle tonight if you're the Oakland A's, and the Pirates ought to be able to do pretty well against Caprillion. Now, Caprillion, I did this kind of a breakdown for him. He started the season and he gave up, 8 runs a game, something like that. They sent him down to the minor leagues, came back. And since he's come back, he's been a little bit better. Now, 49 on a game score average is just a little bit below average. But if you think about it, I just told you Giolito was a 51. Caprillion is a 49. So don't get it wrong that Caprillion is one of these guys that you go out and score 8 runs against like he did at the beginning. He's changed his style. He's not the same pitcher. Now, having said that, his numbers aren't any good for tonight. I mean, he's got a 5.23 xFIP and a 4.79 Sierra. So those are all red. So I expect him to get hit. But he strikes guys out. He's at an 8%, 8.39 strikeout. He just walks too many guys, puts guys on base, gives up too many hits. So Pittsburgh, you can play them. I just don't play them when they're minus 270 and stuff like that. So that's too high for me. The next game is a interesting game because you have Brown, who's pitching for Houston, and you have Gausman, who's pitching for Toronto. Gausman's one of the AL Cy Young type guys who's been one of the best pitchers in baseball, and especially in the American League. And Brown, I don't think people are giving him enough credit for being what he is. He's been excellent. Now, he's not been quite as good as Gausman. So for the season, Gausman's a game score 61. For his last 7, he's a 62. So that's pretty consistent. And for his last 3, he's a 67. So that's pretty good. Gausman's been really good. And Brown, his last 3 was a 60. Last 7 is a 54. And for the season, he's a 56. So he's not quite ace-like. So where you run into problems with Brown is he has a tendency to give up hits. It's a 2.79 batting average against him and 1.30 whip rate. So walks and innings and hits divided by innings pitched. 1.3 is above the average. So that's not necessary. He's got too many guys on base. So he's always got to fight guys being on base. But he's got a big strikeout. Gausman's a big strikeout guy too. Gausman 11.45 strikeouts per 9 innings. Brown 12.36. So he strikes guys out, and Toronto likes to strike out. So I would think that you're going to get some decent numbers if you want to bet Brown on the over on the strikeout prop. But Gausman to me would be the only way to go here. I know they got schmoozed and smashed yesterday, but that's because Manoah pitched. And I think Gausman's going to give them a depth of innings, so he's going to go deeper in the game. Hey Connor, how you doing, brother? So I think that when you're looking at this game, if you were going to play this one, I think Toronto would be the way to go. The next game I actually bet, this is the Dodgers and the Reds. The Reds called up Ellie De La Cruz today. He's the number 4 prospect in all of baseball, and he is a 6'7" shortstop. So he's kind of like that O'Neal Cruz who got hurt for Pittsburgh. Is kind of what if you want to kind of picture what he looks like and how he plays. But he's going to bat 4th tonight in his debut for Major League Baseball. So it'll be interesting. There'll be some excitement for them. I don't think it's the same as having a pitcher. They had a pitcher pitch yesterday for the first time, and he skipped AAA and went right to Major League Baseball and won the game yesterday. So. The Reds are doing everything they can do. Reds are actually 3rd place in the NL Central. So, it's not like they're a cakewalk. But I think that the Dodgers coming off the series with the Yankees, and you have Gonsolin on the mound. Now, Gonsolin's one of these guys that everybody says sucks. All I can tell you about Gonsolin is his game score for the season is a 58. Over the last 7's a 58, and the last 3 is a 60. All he does is go out there. He doesn't strike guys out, but he gets everybody out, and he gets people out when they're on base. They hit a lot of ground balls against him. So I like the idea that Gonsolin's going to be able to beat Weaver tonight. Weaver pitches for Cincinnati, and I think that the Cincinnati offense just isn't going to score the runs that are necessary to beat the Dodgers. When I flipped over and looked at the offense, the Dodgers are scoring 5.5 runs a game, and they're only striking out 16% of the time. So they make a lot of contact. They put a lot of balls in play, and I think they'll do that again tonight because Weaver's not a big strikeout guy. So I think, and they've seen him a lot because Weaver used to pitch for the Diamondbacks. So I think you're going to see that they're familiar with him, and I think they'll knock him around a little bit. So I played the Dodgers on the run line tonight as away favorites. The next one's Boston and Paxton. This is Paxton and Bieber. Now, Bieber, everybody's telling you that Cleveland's got him on the shop right now trying to trade him. I'm not sure that they shouldn't have traded him before his last 2 starts, to be honest, because his last 2 starts haven't been very good. And if he's going to continue to go down this path, they're not going to get much out of it. So if he's certainly a former Cy Young guy. His velocity is way down. I don't think he even cracks 90 hardly anymore, maybe 90, 91. But his issue is he's getting hit. So I'm going to flip my switch here for 1 second and go to that game. In the last 5 games, I was telling Jeff before we got going here, he's pitched 29 and 1/3 innings in 5 games, almost 6 innings a game. But he's given up 39 hits. 39 hits in 29 innings. Most starting pitchers are going to want to be around that. If you pitch 29 innings, 29 hits or 28. He's 10 runs or 10 hits over that. So he's being hit. And if you think about what Boston can do, they struggled against the Rays, but I don't think they're going to struggle against Bieber. I think they're going to hit Bieber. And Paxton's one of those guys who's, to me, if he's on, he's just, you can't hit him. He's got pitches that you can't hit. If he's off, then you don't have to swing at those pitches you can't hit, and he's got to put it in there. So I don't mind the idea of taking Boston tonight as an underdog. I think they have a good fighting chance. The Cleveland Guardians are a team that surprised me playing the Twins because they were dogs in every one of those games in that series. I think they split the series 2-2. But they don't hit, and the Twins didn't hit either. Twins have a reason for that, and we can get into that later. But so I don't mind this game. If you like Boston, I kind of like Boston on this side. The Mets and the Braves, Carrasco's thrown pretty well in his last couple of starts. But the guy that's holding everything together for Atlanta is Elder. Elder is, I don't know if people really realize, but I think he's only lost 1 game or 2 games. And he's got a game score 62 for the season. Well, that's what aces throw. 62s. Those are big numbers. He's off of a game score 71, and he's facing the Mets, who just got swept. So I like the idea that Atlanta is going to be the right side here. You got to figure out how to play it. If you want to play first 5, I don't mind that, especially on the run line. Maybe you play the run line minus a half a run, get yourself into a better number against a Carrasco who gets hit by the Braves. The Braves like to hit him. He's not a strikeout guy, only 5.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, so they're going to have balls in play. And if the Braves are putting balls in play, that's not a good thing for the Mets. The next game I did play, this is Baltimore-Milwaukee. This is Gibson against Peralta, and Peralta's in one of those funks where, he's not throwing strikes. His walk rate's 4.56 guys per 9 innings, and he's not striking guys out either, only 7. And he's a double-digit strikeout kind of guy. So I like the idea that his peripherals aren't very good either. 5.21, 5.27 xFIP in Sierra. So it looks to me like he's in a bad spot. Now Gibson's not a guy that's going to go out there and light the world on fire because he throws the ball 100 miles an hour. He's just a bulldog. He goes out there and tries to keep everything to a minimum, and that's what he does. And he kind of leads that Baltimore charge that way. I think Baltimore gives Milwaukee fits tonight. I think actually Baltimore wins this game. Now, I took them in the first 5 innings because I think that's where the edge is. So I took Baltimore in the first 5 innings. I think the number was plus 118 or something like that. Liberatore and Dunning tonight. If you're betting St. Louis, good luck to you. St. Louis is finding ways to lose games all the time. And Dane Dunning is pitching tonight. He's a former White Sox, been now with Texas long enough. And with the injury news to DeGrom today, he's going to be in the rotation probably for the rest of the season. So as it turns out, you're looking at Liberatore, who is a guy that walks a lot of guys. 4.5 in his first couple of starts. That's not good. 4.5 per 9 innings is not where you want to be. You want to be under 3. 4.5 is not good. He's not a strikeout guy either. So I like the idea here that you keep riding Texas, right? I mean, you ride them until they lose, and then once they lose, you get back on and try to ride them again. Now St. Louis, we'll talk about the NL Central in a minute, but I don't think they're out of that. But at the same time, they're going to have to do something because I think there's a leadership issue in that dugout. Anyway, that being said, you got the next game is San Francisco Giants in Colorado. You got Lamet, who's a former big time guy in San Diego, who they thought they was going to be, one of their guys to build around, and it turned out he got injured, and then he couldn't come back and make it as a starter, so they put him in the bullpen. Then they just got rid of him, and now Colorado is trying to do the same thing. And he made one start so far, and it didn't go so well. So he's going to start again tonight. Now he's going to face San Francisco. Now San Francisco is a 500 type team, but they can hit a little bit, and they can pitch a little bit, but not tonight. Tonight they got Briba on the mound. He'll be fine for the first couple innings, first inning, maybe second inning, and then they're going to piece it all together. And if they put Stripling in the game and he pitches, well, then that gives the wide opening to Colorado. So I stayed off of this game altogether. Chicago plays the Angels tonight. I don't like the Cubs matchup with the Angels. I think the Angels have too much on offense. Wisniewski gets hit all the time, so I don't like that. For them, but Anderson's been just bad for the Angels. He's been, in terms of free agent signings and what they thought they were getting and what they got. His numbers are basically the worst on the board today. 6.28, 6.39 xFIP Sierra. I can't bet those numbers, even if they are playing against the Cubs. And the xERA number that a lot of people like to look at from StatCast is 5.29 for Anderson and 5.08 for Wisniewski. So maybe these guys wake up and start hitting the ball. Maybe they get an over tonight. The last game is a good pitcher duel. You got Seattle with Gilbert, and you got San Diego with Musgrove. Now I will tell you that I think that the way to look at this game is that Seattle's Gilbert got smashed by the Yankees. And when you got a number where a guy that's for the season, he's a game score of 57, so he's almost ace-like, and he's threw an 18. That's what he threw. He got smashed. The Yankees hit home run after home run, and they just bombed him. Okay, well, guess what happens when the next time he starts? He's lights out, and I would expect him to be lights out tonight. San Diego Musgrove, his number 48 for the season. That's because his first couple of starts weren't that good. The last start was a game score 65, which is coming off of a game score 70. So he's had 2 good starts in a row. I think Seattle beats the Padres tonight. So just in terms of looking at numbers and kind of where things are, that's kind of what I see on the board today.
Well, as we speak, it looks like the Astros have put one up on the board. Let me see. Yes. Mr. Dubon leadoff homer. So 1-0 Astros as we speak. Still 1-0 Phillies at the end of 2. And that's about it. Nothing but zeros across the board. So we got about a month, give or take, till the All-Star break. Some news coming down yesterday and today. Steven Strasburg sounding like will probably never pitch again. I remember when he came out of college into the ranks, and he was the next coming and showed flashes, but just couldn't stay healthy. Now some kind of neck injury. What is it, 2020, the last time he pitched, Scott?
It's where are we in 2023? I think he pitched in 2020, but I think 2019 was the last time he really pitched, like he pitched a majority of a season. He's going through that thoracic syndrome in his shoulder, and he's got nerve issues and stuff. And I always thought he was a big, broad-shouldered kid that I thought could handle a lot of stuff. But if you remember back when he first came out, they had the Strasburg rules, he couldn't pitch a certain number of innings, and they needed him to pitch in the end, and they didn't let him pitch. They didn't make the playoffs that first time. So they had the Strasburg rules, and maybe they knew a lot more than what we know, because look what happened to the kid.
100%. And preseason, the buzz, DeGrom to the Rangers, and the no buzz, and I sat here, bitched, yelled, screamed, and complained, was Eovaldi to the Rangers, and the guy has just been Cy Eovaldi. I think he went 28 innings without giving up a run stretch there. Now DeGrom, Tommy John surgery. What do you thought? 2?
This is his second one,
which means,
well, guys can come back from their second one. It's just he's older now. So his first one was in 2010. That's 13 years ago. So that's a long time between Tommy John surgeries. So, I'm not sure what to expect from him when he comes back. I know those guys, when they put their arms back together, their arms are as good as they could ever be. I mean, they're healthy. The problem's going to be is the age and wear and tear, and how many innings he's missed over the last 3 seasons. So when you think about what would be best for Jacob deGrom, what about a John Smoltz closer type role for Jacob deGrom when he comes back? That's what I think.
Now is this something? I know they speed up the process, but is this something that the best case scenario? It's June, that he would not pitch next year, or is this?
Yes, I think best case. He's not going to be like Bryce Harper. That won't happen because he's a pitcher. Bryce Harper's a hitter. So I think what you're looking at is, at best, you're looking at August, September of next season.
And obviously, if they were in the race, that would open up some eyes and stuff. But I mean, if you could just say, hey, you know what? We got a lot of money invested in you. We'll see you in 20.
I think that kind of is a misnomer too, because, everybody bitches about these guys' contracts. Not that I don't, but everybody bitches about their contracts. And then they go out and they get hurt and they don't play and they make all this money. The teams don't pay that. They're not paying that. They got insurance when a guy gets hurt that's paying that. So they're actually holding the money. Obviously they got to pay their premiums and they got to do whatever on these guys. But, it's one of those things where, they're not getting ripped off. The insurance companies are helping. They're helping pay those bills. So it's not like they go out there and I heard somebody on the radio I don't remember what I was listening to, but they were like, "This is the biggest bank robber and criminal, blah 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 blah," because he stole all this money and no, he didn't. Those guys are insured. It's just like what's the closer's name for the Mets that got hurt earlier, jumping around at
Diaz.
home? Yeah.
Diaz.
Okay, the Mets have insurance on him. Okay, that's why Kershaw couldn't go and play, because they wouldn't insure Kershaw, but they would insure the other guy. So he gets hurt. When we pay a salary, that's what's happening. So yeah, you can sit there and say all you want to about how poor the Mets are because they got to pay this money and they're not paying this guy. They ain't paying it. The insurance company.
We broke down the games. D-backs put up 1, Phillies still up 1-0, and not much else going around. It's been a week. So what has transpired during the week in your eyes in baseball? Any hot topics that you want to discuss? We just talked about the injuries. Again, we got about a month till the All-Star break. Then we'll be talking trade deadline. You talked about Bieber as one of the names, obviously being shopped around. There's going to be a lot of other names. Who's the buyers? Who's the sellers? Yada, yada, yada.
All right. So let's say this before we move on to that part of it. Did we talk about Manoah being sent down today?
I did not bring it up, Mr. Manure. No.
So his start yesterday wasn't so good, right? I mean, he pitched to 9 batters, gave up 7 hits and a walk and a grand slam. So he gave up 6 runs, left the game with 1 out, and had 2 guys on. So not the best start for him. His I think earned run average is almost 7 now. And what I wanted to say was, we're 60 games in, and I think he's at least 12 starts. So you are what you are when you're in 12 starts, okay? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, okay, well, it's a blip on the radar. Well, it's 12 goddamn starts for Jesus. So what they did today, I think, takes a lot of guts, because the truth of the matter is he's going to cost them the playoffs if they don't do it. So because he's going to lose every time they pitch, and you can't have that. And he's the opening day starter for this team. And now he's being sent to an instructional league, Jeff. So it's a little different than like getting sent to AAA and trying to work on something in games. This is an instructional league where they play games, but they're kind of simulated games. They're structured where, okay, let's put a guy on first base. Let's put a guy on second base. Let's don't put anybody on base. Let's do this. Let's do that. All you're going to do is throw fastballs to this guy. All you're going to do is, they're trying to work with the pitcher, and they're trying to do different things. It's instructional more than it is about wins, losses, and that kind of thing. So that's what he's doing, and I think that's great for him. The only advice that, and this is going to sound bad because I don't know the kid, and I don't want it to come across like I'm some asshole. Well, maybe I do, but anyway, the point being is, I think that he could have some fitness to his body, and I don't mean you have to go out there and be Thor, for God's sakes, but David Wells was out there, and look what he could do. But the point of the matter is if you're not what you were a year ago, and you're not because of the size of your body, and maybe you can't rotate properly, or maybe you can't turn your hips right, or maybe your legs don't push off the same, or whatever it may be, there can be something said to that. I mean, I remember some of these guys showing up to camp and stuff, some of these players, and they're like 30 pounds overweight and shit, and they're like, what the hell? So I don't know. Pitchers are a little different because, it's all on their shoulder and their arms. But, I'm going to talk about pitchers in a minute. But, when it comes to it, if you're not at the top of your game, you get exposed. And I think that, we've talked about pitching for so long and so much, you forget these are the absolute best hitters in the world. There's no question. They are the best hitters in the world. If you make a mistake of any kind, I don't care if you throw 100 miles an hour. If you make a mistake, they're going to hit it. So if you put it where you want to, you're going to get them out. That's how good the pitchers are. So it drives me crazy when I sit here and watch these hitters that don't. Well, I'll talk about that in a minute. But the point being is I think Manoah is going to get what he needs, and I hope that they're. I don't want to call it tough love because I think that's the wrong language, because I don't want him to be tough. I just want him to give him the right advice on how to get him right, because when Manoah was on the first part of last year, he had a less than 2 earned run average. I mean, holy shit, he was really good.
So what is the difference? Is there a timetable here? Or is, you don't see this very often. And listen, I've seen most of his starts. I said that he was masking an injury. He couldn't get the slider over for a strike. He was, 90 pitches through 4 1/3, and 50 strikes, 40 balls. I mean, to me, he was masking a shoulder injury, and everyone said he's not hurt. Yada yada yada. So is this a wait and see approach? How he takes this demotion, or is this a 2-3 week plan, or is this we'll see you after the All-Star break?
Well, I hope it's not like what the Cardinals did to their catcher. How about that? Where you just take him out and say, you can't call balls and strikes and you don't know how to call a game, so we're going to make you the designated hitter and put somebody else in there, and then made it all public. I hope that's not what happens, because that's just terrible mismanagement of a player. But I will say this, that they put him in the right environment. They got him out of the big leagues. They humble him a little bit by getting him around, 19, 18, 20-year-old kids that are trying to figure it out themselves. and it's like here in Tampa. The Yankees have guys down here that don't go to AAA or AA or whatever, and they work on stuff and they try to get healthy, and then they work on different things. But an instructional league where they play games and they do different things, but they're all structured. So I think it's probably the best thing that could have ever happened to him of the way they're doing it, because he's not going to be in the limelight either unless some reporter ass goes down there and tries to drag him out and try to do other stuff with him. But my suggestion would be is for those guys. Hey, the Dodgers have 3 runs, by the way. So
I was going to tell you that.
So I'm sitting here talking to you, smiling, go woo woo woo. But the point being is I think that he's going to be a vital cog to that team, because if you can put Manoah with a good Gosman, with a good Bassett, those guys can pitch, and they're.
The funny thing is they're getting, I will say, decent starts out of Berrios too.
Well, yeah, and Berrios, I forgot about that. And Berrios, and truth is Kikuchi hasn't been as bad as he normally is. So what the hell ever. So what's been surprising about Toronto is they can't goddamn score as many runs as they're supposed to score. That's what's amazing about Toronto. Oh, they got the greatest offense in the world. Okay, show it to me. And then they get out there and they can't score. So, whatever. So anyway, moving into sort of where I think baseball is, and kind of one of the things I want to talk about today is most teams have played 60 games as of today. There's 100 to go. So can teams make a run? Absolutely. They can make a run in 100 games. You can definitely do that. Look what the Phillies did last year, and what the Nationals did a couple of years ago. These teams were out of it and made big runs, and they got back into it. And then they made a couple of additions, like the Nationals, and got a couple of different things. And all of a sudden these teams are really good and made it to the World Series. And then in the Nationals case, they won. So it's interesting when you start to look at it, and then you kind of look at the standings and see where they are. So I wanted to share this with you, Jeff, because we haven't talked about this in a long time. I look at so many different standings that I mesh a whole bunch of shit together to come up with what I think power ratings are on baseball teams. But I wanted to do one specific one, because I think most people know what I'm talking about. If I say base runs standings, what I'm talking about is you have regular baseball, right? The regulars, they are what they are standings, and then you have the Pythagorean theory standings. The Pythagorean theory standings basically is if you score this many runs, you should have this many wins. That's kind of the way that works. But base runs is a little different. So base runs is also taking into effect your pitching and your defense and some other stuff. So theoretically, it's the best true number of what your team should be based on how it's performed to this point. So if I go through this and I tell you, like in the American League East is probably no surprise, but it's the Rays and the Yankees, right? And they're saying that the Rays should have 42 wins, not 43, and the Yankees should have 33 wins, not 36. But they're also saying the Blue Jays should have 33 wins. So base run says the Blue Jays and the Yankees are the same team. I say that depends on whether Judge is playing or not, to be honest. And I would tell you, in my opinion, that the Blue Jays are probably better than the Yankees if Aaron Judge isn't playing. Now, what's interesting is, where did I say the Orioles at? I didn't. So base runs has the Orioles at 6 games above where they should be at 31 wins. They have them at 31-28, and they have the Red Sox at 31-29. So I find that a little bit I find that to be where all I'm hearing about, and I heard Chris Russo on that, whatever show he has, he was talking about, the Baltimore Orioles, they're in. They're in. They're gonna be in. Okay, well, I like them tonight, so I hope they did well win tonight. But at the same time, I tell you that I don't know that they're going to make the playoffs, Jeff. Now, that doesn't mean that they're a bad team. That doesn't mean a lot of things. But when I look at what I'm looking at, and it says they've won 6 games they shouldn't have won, well, that stuff catches up to you over 162 games. And that's why baseball is great, because at the end, the best teams are there. And when I get to the American League Central and the National League Central, this is where things get laughable. So the Twins, they've won 31 games. Base Run says they should have won 36. They have lost 5 games they should have won. And the Guardians have won 27 and should have only won 25. So that's a hell of a gap between 36 and 25. That's 11 games different between first and second. If you think any of these teams, or this is how my opinion basically is, and this is what I base a lot of stuff on, is that the Guardians are going to make up. Excuse me. I know they don't have to make up real games, but if it was Base Run's games and you have to make up 11, you ain't going to do it. Not with that offense. So I don't think the Guardians are in. And you know what's more interesting? The Tigers should have won 25 games, and the Royals should have won 25 games, which is exactly how many the Guardians should have won. So the White Sox should have won 24 games. That's how bad that division is. But if you think about it, you can almost kind of put them in and blow them all together, and that's what you get. So in the American League Central, I think you want to stay away from that unless you're going to bet on the Twins, which I bet the Twins before the season started to win that division. So I'm feeling pretty good. But that being said, I don't think you want to jump on any other team, and I certainly don't think you want to have any of those teams as teams that are going to make the playoffs. Now, this is where I think things are a little bit interesting, because Base Run says the Texas Rangers should be at 41 wins. What did we say the Rays were at? Should have been at 42. So that means they're 1 game worse than the Rays, and that's 2 games better than their actual record. And the Astros should be at 33 wins, and they're at 36. So that tells me that I think the Rangers are for real, and the Rangers are going to be around, and the Rangers are going to be there at the end. And they have the Angels at 33 wins, which is the same number of wins as the Astros. Now, we just saw what happened when the Astros kicked the shit out of the Angels. So we'll see what the Angels do to sort of stay in this thing, because I think they can. They just have to. I don't know how to say it. They're saying that the Angels have lost 2 games that they should have won, and that they should be 2 games better. So they should have won 2 games that they lost, and that the Astros have won 3 games that they shouldn't have. So that kind of balances those out a little bit. In the National League East, it's all Braves, but you'd be surprised at who the second team is on Base Runs. Base Runs, it's the Phillies. The Phillies are at 31 wins. The Mets and the Marlins are at 28. So the Mets and the Marlins are at 28, both under 500 on Base Runs. So when you start to think about it, I think the Braves they're just gonna win that division. I think that the Phillies have a good chance to come back and get into the playoffs. I think the Mets have a longer way to go, and obviously the Marlins are in second place right now, but that's because they just got the Marlins just got the feast of all feasts. They just played the Oakland A's, and now they're playing the Kansas City Royals. So I mean, what the hell? So that's 6 straight games they can go win, and the Braves got to play the Mets and stuff like that. So now the NL Central, Jeff, here's where things are amazing, right? So the Brewers and the Pirates have 32 wins. The Base Run says the Brewers or the Pirates should have 30 wins. That's second in the division, but it's not to the Brewers. The Brewers should only have 26 wins. In fact, the Brewers should be in last place at 26 wins, tied with the Reds at 26 wins. The team that's supposed to be in the top is the Cubs. The Cubs are supposed to have 33 wins. They are -7. They've lost 7 games that they should have won. So are you telling me that it's offense? Is it pitching, or is it the manager, or what is it about the Cubs that theoretically they should have won 7 more games that they haven't? And if they would have won those 7 games, they're sort of head and shoulders above the rest because they're 33, the Pirates are 30, and the Cardinals are 29. So I don't know who to tell you to take in that division, but I certainly would not tell you to bet on the Brewers. I would tell you to take more like the Cubs or the Cardinals or somebody like that. Shit. Well, I wouldn't take the Reds. But, I mean, you could take somebody other than the Brewers, and I think you'll get a better return on your money. And I don't know if the Brewers are going to be around at the end. And then interestingly enough, the West has the Dodgers at 34 wins, the Diamondbacks 31 wins, the Padres 31 wins, and the Giants 31 wins. So that's sort of a blurred mess of teams, and the Rockies at 24. So if you think about in the National League, if you looked at base runs, you'd have the Braves, you'd have the Cubs, and then you would have the Dodgers winning the divisions, and then you would have the Phillies at 30. You'd have the Phillies at 31, the Diamondbacks, Padres, and Giants at 31. So one of those 4 teams would be out, and the other 3 would be in. So that means you would have like the Pirates would be out, the Brewers would be gone, the Mets, the Marlins, all those teams not making it. Interesting. I thought that was an interesting way to look at it.
It's crazy. It is crazy. And I guess, it's hard to dig deep and pull those numbers. Listen, we can go back to, we were talking about Strasburg, and you said 19. Was it 19 that the Nationals won the World Series?
Yeah.
And they were.
Because the Dodgers won it in the 2020 when there's this bad, whatever year it was.
They were 24 and 27, the Nationals, because it was right near the end of May. My buddy hit them like the second or third week of May and the last week of May. He hit them twice. And, you got teams that just come out and look at the Phillies last year. They didn't win it, but the fact is, man, they got hot. That happens in baseball, but a lot of people are not wired. That's why I really applaud you, to dig deep and look at some of these numbers, because you can go out there and bargain shop at some of these sports books. They're giving you amazing prices out there. We're talking again, 2-3 weeks ago, the Cardinals were the talk of the town. They were scoring double digits every night. They couldn't lose. Well, now they can't win. So again, maybe it's time to go back on the Cardinals. I like the Braves. You like the Braves. We know the Dodgers are going to be there in the American League. As good as we like the Rangers, it's going to be tough for the Astros not to be there. You talked preseason about the Angels. Now let's go to the American League East. I can tell you one thing. The Red Sox won't be there. I can guarantee you that, number one. Number two, up top, your Braves got an amazing start. They'll be in the playoffs. There's no doubt in my mind the Rays will be in the playoffs. Now, is it going to be the Yankees? I think even though Judge is hurt.
So I want to ask you this question. How good are the New York Yankees? So I ask you that because look at their goddamn lineup. They got minor league players batting 5 through 9 every night. And even though they have that, of course, Judge went and played against the Dodgers, and he played against Seattle there. So they kind of did a little better when he got there. And then now they got Stanton back, and they got what's his name back that plays third base, and so they got some of these guys back. But prior to that, Jeff, they were holding their own against some of the best teams in baseball, and I have a hard time understanding how they do that. I mean, I get it. It's the New York Yankees, so there's some mystique and there's some bullshit that goes with trying to beat them. But I also look at it and go, what happens when Rodon hits that lineup? I think they're gonna win the East. That's what I think.
No, I do too. And I'm going to ask you a crazy question, and we could talk for hours about this. We talk about Shohei, we talk about the Angels, and then I've talked to you at length. I can't see the Angels spending $1 billion for two players, meaning Trout and Otani. And word on the street is if you want Otani next year, it's going to start with a six. It's going to cost you $600 million. So my question is, for some of these big market teams that in the back of their mind are in the Shohei, and I heard from a source, and listen, when I say source, I'm not saying I got sources out there, guys. Okay, I'm not saying that, but they said that you can mark it down. He's going to San Francisco. They lost out on Judge. They were right there. They're not losing out on Shohei, and they got the check ready with the six and whatever. My question to you is: the big market teams come trade deadline, are they going to pull back on taking some of these contracts and getting stuck with them? Because in the back of their mind, they're like, I really wouldn't mind taking a swing at Shohei.
I don't think they will in a sense that I don't think there's going to be, to be honest, I don't think there's going to be that many teams in Shohei's market.
Okay.
I think there might only be 2 or 3 teams that'll even be in the market for him. Yeah, everybody can say they want him. I mean, you can be the Cleveland Guardians and go, yeah, I want him. Oh shit, everybody wants, but shit, that his contract is more than your whole probably major league team and AAA team, right? You add them all together, and his contract would be more than all those guys make. So I'm just joking. I'm not trying to be mean to you guys that like Cleveland. So when it comes to that kind of thing, I think there's only 2 or 3 teams that would be in that market. And I think San Francisco would be a perfect fit for him. He doesn't want to play in the East.
No.
He wants to stay in the West. So I mean, but he'll go where the money goes. I guarantee you that. He'll go where the money goes. So if somebody was going to pay him whatever to go play in, I don't know, Minnesota, he'll go there because they're going to pay him to go there. And then he'll find somebody to be buddies with or something. But that's just kind of the way it is. Now, people are not going to like me for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway because I've said some things about some Hispanic players that I've been a little bit rough on in how they play baseball. I'm going to tell you that I don't like the way Shohei Ohtani plays baseball. I'm just going to tell you that. Now, the reason I don't like it is because he's a very undisciplined player. If you watch what he swings at, when he needs to make good solid contact, he's swinging at shit that he shouldn't be swinging at. Balls are down and away. He can't stay off that pitch, and he swings. And if the ball's up and in, he swings at that pitch, and they get him out. He's not hard to get out. He's hard when they make a mistake because he'll hit the mistake, and he hits it a long way. But he's got the same problem pitching, Jeff. And what I mean by that is, oh God, I love him as a pitcher more than I do as a hitter. I think he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. If I go over these things in 30-day spans, he may only give up like 13, 14 hits in 5 games. That's pretty good. But the other thing that I will tell you is when they play good teams, he falls away. He's not around. He's not there, whether he's a pitcher or a hitter. And if you're going to pay a guy a number that starts with a 6, the only reason I would pay a guy that starts with a 6 is because they get that much return in terms of how many seats sit in the stands, because he's not going to return. Look, I get it. Nobody else does what Shohei Ohtani does, right? He goes out there and makes 30 starts. He's not going to do that his whole career, by the way, guys. He's not going to do that his whole career. It's not going to work that way. There will be a time when he doesn't pitch anymore, or there'll be a time he doesn't hit anymore, whichever way that it kind of goes. He won't do both. And I would imagine the time when he decides that he's not going to pitch anymore, he'll hit. But that being said, That'll be something that comes up probably in contract talks when you start to think about how long is he going to be a two-way player and and all that kind of stuff. But I would tell you, Jeff, that I really think that now that's the difference I think with Mike Trout. Mike Trout doesn't necessarily fall away. He's there and he's a presence and he's pretty clutch sometimes. And I don't think Ohtani is at all. I think Ohtani's kind of the total opposite of that. He kind of folds away and he's nowhere to be seen when you need him. And, that was, and you'll love me when I say this, but that was the thing about David Ortiz. You needed David Ortiz. David Ortiz was there. And that was the thing, right? I mean, that's the thing. That's what WPA is when you're thinking about these data points and statistics. Is win probability added. Those guys that add win probability, those are the guys, right? I also look at it as simple as I can. Look at your RBI guys. How many 100 RBI guys are there? Not very many. But every team needs a 100 RBI guy because you know what? That's what they do. They go up and drive in the runs. How many times you get guys on second, third, and they don't score? For God's sakes, it pulls you rip your goddamn head off. I mean, it's the most embarrassing bullshit I've ever seen.
You're talking to the bases loaded king, no outs, no runs. And everyone here watching ECSI VIPs, they know. Finally, we broke the curse. We got a grand slam early in the week, and I think we got a 2 or 3 run base hit. I mean, it's comical. You're talking about professional hitters that got it and want to be in that spot. Miggy in his prime, David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, JD Martinez. Those are guys that got up with guys on base, 2 outs, and they drove the ball and they got the runners in.
Yes, and you have to have that. I mean, I think about that all the time. I mean, I think about what are the Astros good at, Jeff? They don't hit for average per se. I mean, they got high averages, some of the guys, but they got guys that don't hit, but they drive in runs. That's what they do. You get a guy on base, they find a way to get him in. And you always feel good. It's like the Dodgers. They do the same thing. They only got 4 guys that can hit. 4. And one of them hits like 220. He just hits home runs, Max Muncy or whatever his name is. But the rest of those guys can't hit, but they got ways and means to drive in the runs, and that's what they do. So it kind of is what it is when it comes to baseball. If you don't have a guy that drives in the runs and is that guy that you can put all the weight on and go, okay, yep, this is the guy I need up, and then I worry, like Ronald Acuna Jr. I think is a great player, but I'm glad they got him batting leadoff because I think if you batted him third or you batted him fourth, he'd be that guy that would piss me off because I think he's that guy that would be one of those guys that just doesn't drive in the run. He's all worried about his own numbers, not the team's numbers. But if you bat leadoff, okay, I can get on base, dance around, run, steal, do all this dumb shit and still hit home runs, and I'm helping the team. But if you bat third, bat fourth, bat fifth, your job is to drive in runs, not be out there and be that guy that, and that's the way Major League Baseball is today. You got a lot of these guys that bat fourth and third and now second in some cases, and they just aren't reliable, dependable enough at being in those spots. And the pitchers know it, man. I don't know how many times you see it. They don't have to throw a strike and they can get you out. I mean, they'll throw 6 pitches and you fouled off 3 balls and swung and missed at the other 2 and you're struck out, and they weren't strikes either. It's pathetic of how the plate discipline works. Although I saw this thing on Seiya Suzuki, who was a Cubs, and they showed the box, where the batter box is, the strike zone, and it showed these balls that were right on the fringe of the strike zone, and they were all balls. But they were all called strikes against him. And he took them all because he's got real good plate discipline, but he struck out a lot because he took strikes that were balls. And the truth of the matter is, so how does a batter win? I mean, if you throw a ball that's, 2 balls outside and they call it a strike, well, it ain't a strike. So then I'm sitting here telling you, well, hit goddamn strikes, you'll do better. Well, what's a strike? So it's interesting to see how that kind of works out. I don't know. But I did want to tell you the one last thing. Remember at the beginning of the year, we had that quiz about how many pitches were thrown at 100 miles an hour. Remember that? We talked about that, and we talked about last year how many pitches were thrown at 100 miles an hour. Well, the answer was over 3,000. Remember that? Well, so far in 2023, there have been, I don't remember how many games. We're only 60 games in, Jeff. There are 2,024 100-mile-an-hour pitches so far in Major League Baseball. So all these people at the beginning of this season, remember how everybody said, oh, the shift is going to get the batting averages back up. The shift was going to do all that. And I said, no. I said, yes, it might be more fun. It might be doing this, but batting average aren't going to go anywhere. You know what the batting average is right now? Major League Baseball, 247. It's 247. So that's a little better than what it was last year. It is. It's a little better. Not by a lot, but it's a little better. But 247 is not very good. And the reason is because these guys can throw the ball and they can throw. And I know we sit here and bitch about these bullpens and how terrible they are, and they give up this many runs and that many runs and this many runs. Well, let me ask you that. Here, I got it right here. Here's my bullpen analysis, right? So in the last 7 games, and I'll just go over a couple of them. In the last 7 games, the Minnesota Twins bullpen's given up 14 hits. That's 2 hits in a game. That's not so bad when you consider they're probably going to pitch 3 innings in a game. That's not so bad. Tampa Bay Rays, 16 hits. Kansas City Royals, 17 hits. Miami Marlins, 18 hits. Philadelphia Phillies, 16 hits. White Sox, 14. Yankees, 12. You go to Toronto, 12. Dodgers, 17. Mets, 6. You know how many hits the Braves have given up in the last 7 games or 6? 7. Giving up 7 hits, bullpen. 15 hits for Milwaukee, 18, 19 for the Cardinals and for Texas. Sure, there's some that got out there that got blown up. Seattle, 33 hits. The Angels, 25 hits. Baltimore, 29 hits. But there are more teams that have good bullpens than bad bullpens. And those things fluctuate, meaning that over the last 7 days, the Baltimore bullpen's been shitty. Over the course of the season, they've been great. So I know everybody sits there and wants to bang on all these bullpens and tell you how bad all these teams are and tell you all that stuff about all these pitchers. It's not true. It's just not true. Yes, there are some bad pitchers. Yes, Manoah sucks. Yes, some of these things aren't good. But in general, it's not what you think it is that are causing these problems. Anyway, that's my sermon for the day.
Everyone on Twitter can follow Scotty, obviously, at Webby20MLB. Scotty, as we always close, tell them where they can find all your work, please.
Well, the best way to catch me nowadays is on Twitter. As you can see, it's scrolling across the bottom. It's Webby20MLB. I do have a website. I just haven't done a whole lot with it since the beginning of the year. A lot of times I post a lot of stuff I write, articles and data and stats and stuff and what they mean and what you should be looking for. But you can go there. It's MLB-daily.com. And of course, it kind of doesn't make any sense anymore that it's MLB-daily because it ain't daily anymore. So but it used to be. I used to write a lot of stuff on there. So anyway, but you can catch me on there. You can catch me here with Jeff all the time. You can text me or you can text me. You can DM me anytime you want. You can ask me any questions you want. I do run a little bit of a service, right? I mean, I don't charge much. That's $49, and you get to follow. Hey, TJ, how are you, brother? Yeah, and you can follow along whatever plays I make. At the beginning, it wasn't so good. Now it's a lot better. Things have turned around. Of course, I say that, and the Dodgers 3-0, and now it's 3-3. God damn it! But it is what it is. So that's baseball, right? I mean, baseball works that way. I will say this: I am 100% shocked that De La Cruz is batting fourth for the Reds tonight, but that doesn't matter. I mean, play him where you want to. I haven't seen him and what he looks like tonight, but if you haven't seen him, he wears like 5 or 6 chains around his neck. It looks like he's getting ready to fall over from all the weight that's running around his neck. I don't know if they're allowing him to do that in Major League Baseball or not, but that's the way he looked like in minor league baseball. So I'm kind of interesting to see kind of what he looks like tonight.
There we go. There's 2. Tuesday nights, myself and Scott, usually around 7 o'clock, 6:45, we'll be here. Next week, Scott, Brady Cannon is traveling. It's the U.S. Open. We're going to move him in around 8 o'clock on Tuesday night. So you and I will probably jump on board around 6:30 on Tuesday. And then we're going to try to do a start to get some weekend shows in as well. Everyone, please go follow Scotty at Webby20MLB. Obviously, you can catch me at EC Sports Invest. Go over to our YouTube page at East Coast Sports Invest. Subscribe. It's free. It's free. We're not charging you anything. Trust me. Great stuff as always, Scotty. Good luck with the Rays.
They're having a good night tonight.
I saw, was it 3-0?
5.
5, yeah. Yeah, like I says, you got off to such a hot start. Maybe the Yankees do catch you, but again, I don't think the Jays will end up catching you or the Yankees there. Shout out to Connor as always. Shout out to TJ. You guys were in a rain delay. You still are. So TJ, you got time to go get a late dinner, get some more cardio in if you need to. Otherwise, buckle up. You could have a late night in Atlanta there, as that is under rain delay. So from myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only Scotty Webb at Webby20MLB. Everyone, have a great night. Enjoy yourselves. Tomorrow, 3 o'clock, myself and Brady Cannon talking the Canadian Open and also Live in PGA Kiss and Make Up. 4 o'clock. Myself and Andrew McGinnis on Wager Talk, from Wager Talk, talking NHL, and CFL kicks off this weekend, 5 o'clock. My buddy, my good pal, Riley Magnuson on the closing bell, and myself and Anthony Pepe will be co-hosting on Sports Map Radio, 8 to 10. Got some great guests, so catch you all. Enjoy yourselves, behave, and see you soon.